computer, and she had I had to sign her off, and then all that stuff. So here I am.
It's all good. It's good to see you,
Yeah.
man. Good to see you.
You too. I'm trying to turn you up a little bit.
Okay. Let me make sure is my volume okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last time I saw you, you were doing the hit with Gregory Porter at Stanford.
Yeah, that was fun. That was back in August, beginning of August. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like you guys were having some serious fun up there, man.
Well, he was, you don't see a guy like that all the time, unless
Yeah.
you're living in New York, but so it was I met him, must have been 12 years ago when his career first got started.
Mhm.
And he was coming out of KPFA.
Okay, Berkeley.
He was having an interview with Greg Bridges.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was going in. He was coming out, and I was going in, and I had heard of him because his record had just come out.
Uh-huh.
So we had a quick exchange, and yeah, it must have been 12 years ago. Now he's, yeah,
Huge.
he's like, he's like he's not even considered a jazz singer. He's kind of in that Diana Krall world,
Yeah.
just almost a pop star.
Yeah. And just speaking of Greg, we'll get to the opera and everything. But speaking of Greg Bridges, man, Greg Bridges did me a heck of a favor, man. I was mentoring to a young girl at this time, and we were interested in getting into radio, doing whatever. She was going through some stuff, so I wanted to just show her radio. She was good at putting music together. She put the music together for her mother's party. This is how this went. And Greg was kind enough to offer an invitation to her and I to come up to KCSM and just take a look around, man. He blew our
How long
mind.
ago was that?
This had to be 8 years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've gone through some changes over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You let my girl go, Alyssa Clancy.
Yeah.
Not good. I mean, it's hard. I mean, she was the morning voice for.
Yes, she was. Yes.
At least as long as I've been here, 30 years, 25. I've been here 25 years. So.
Okay, where are you originally from, Greg? I'm sorry, Marcus.
Yeah. I was born in Alaska, Anchorage.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad was in the military. He was stationed there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. But we didn't stay there very long. I lived in Sacramento.
Okay.
Kind of where I went to high school and grew up. And then I went to college. I went to two different places. I went to Cal Poly, and I played basketball there. And then I went to, and I studied engineering. That was kind of a different life. And then I went to LA, and that's when I ended up going to Cal Arts studying music.
Wow.
I was in LA for 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about engineering, man, you're taking me way off topic.
I know. I'm going to start rambling. But I do got to go to this rehearsal, so I want to make sure I get what you need.
I got you. So I tell you what, let's do this. Let's talk about this Harriet Tubman thing. And the reason I hit you up is because this will air before the event, and I wanted to make sure to at least talk to you. But I'm gonna have a separate conversation with you when you're available, and we're gonna cover just you. How about that?
Well, let's cover us.
Okay. All right. I'm with that.
I get tired of talking to you. Let's cover us. I want to learn more about I know you do a lot of stuff with Tiff and other people, but I just, let's try to catch up on
that's perfect.
Another time where we can just kind of, bounce around.
That's perfect. So about this rehearsal you're going to, what's happening? Tell us about it.
Well, right now it's the principals for the opera.
Okay.
So which would include Tiffany and Christabel, who's the young soprano, I call her Steph Curry because she just sings beautifully, way up in the kind of 3-point range of singers, right? And there's a young brother that's also he's singing the Montgomery. We have two roles. He's doing two roles. Montgomery, which is a retro back during the Harriet Tubman raid, and then he's also a janitor in this sort of current role on this campus where these kids are dealing with this situation.
Now let's give them the bigger picture.
Mhm.
This, what is this? I want you to tell us what this is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's an opera,
Okay.
and it features three principals. One is Harriet Tubman as a character, and that's the role that Tiffany Austin is playing.
Okay.
And then there's two other principals. One is a soprano, and her name is Christabel Nunu, and she's amazing. She's, I think, in her early 20s, maybe.
Okay.
And just an incredible voice, range, and tone. And she plays a role of a young kid who is on campus and dealing with a bullying situation of another kid whose name is Ben. And she's close to Ben. And she's kind of trying to figure out how to protect Ben from these kids who keep just bullying. This is a topic that we see all the time in schools that come up with kids and pressure and how to deal with that, middle schools in particular. And so Christabel, this kid, her name is actually Modesty, which if you kind of pull back the drapes, you'll see that Modesty was the name of Harriet Tubman's grandmother who came over on a slave ship. Ben was the name of Harriet Tubman's father.
Wow.
And so we use a lot of history to tell this story, which is taking place in the current tense. And so basically Modesty summons the spirit of Harriet Tubman to help her deal with this bullying situation on how to have the strength to speak up, how to have the strength to really protect this young kid.
Okay.
And so that's the simple story. The complexity of it comes in, really, the complexity of it is how we weave the history of Harriet Tubman, some of the stories in her life, whether it's her raid, whether it's her sharing how she went through a lot of struggles like this young kid is going through. Okay. So there's a few duets in there between Harriet Tubman and Modesty that I don't want to say teach, but it does expose the story of Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman's story is very, very rich and long. I mean, she had 91 years on this planet, 1822 to 1913. So you can't tell the whole story, but you can tell important parts of it, and particularly to kids, and particularly to this age range, of having the courage, like Harriet Tubman, to speak out, to speak up, and to use your strength. And I like to call the sort of eternal mores that we like to teach kids: family, love, respect. And we know that family looks different, doesn't always look kind of in the picture perfect. I don't even want to call it perfect, but in the way that society has sort of promoted the perfect family unit. Yeah. Sometimes family is a little bit more expressive than that, a little bit more diverse than that. Right. And so when I use the word family, we use it in a way of just how friends become family, the love of family, because that was the most important thing that Harriet Tubman sort of exercised. Because every time she came back on her escapes, maybe there was a dozen of them, no one really knows, it was to get a family member out of slavery. Initially it was to get her husband out. So she made her first escape, must have been 1849, like 12 years or so before the Civil War. And Christmas Eve, when the slave master house would not be paying attention, on a Saturday night, where there would be no newspapers announcing an escaped slave on the next day. So she had like 48 hours to get this head start during this moment in, Christmas Eve when no one's paying attention.
Gotcha.
And she was married at the time, she was married, and she could not convince her husband to come with her. He was like girl, you crazy type of mentality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She wasn't crazy. She was just would rather be dead than be and buried in her grave than to be a
Got it. Yeah,
slave.
yeah,
Another
yeah,
story.
yeah.
So she came back 6 months later, I think it was, to get him. He had already remarried. But the whole point is that she came back to get her family. She had a sister, Lina, that was enslaved. She had another sister, Soph, who had been enslaved. Her parents, ironically, were not enslaved, but they were in the South and they were working. Her father was like, he cut timber, he held various jobs like that. So, but they were still in the South and with very little means, right? And eventually she did get her parents out of the South all the way up to Canada.
Wow.
After the the Dred Scott law, after, it was 1857, where if an escaped slave could be retrieved, I don't want to keep using the word slave, a Black person who had ran away could be brought back to the South with this this sort of compromise that they made to make, it was like, was Missouri going to be a slave state or not?
Where I'm from, yeah.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, if it's not, then we need to give these Southern slave owners something in return, and in return was that they can go outside of the South to retrieve their so-called property.
Wow.
Anyway, these are kind of side things. The thing is, we're revealing history.
Gotcha, man.
Harriet Tubman made an incredible raid on a Confederate target. And during this raid, General Montgomery was like, control these people, talking about Black people who were running from this raid. And after Harriet Tubman had helped free them.
Right.
And she's like, I don't know, I don't know these folks, it's like, it's just like, if like you gonna go and like free a whole bunch of people, she was just kind of doing her job as a freedom fighter.
Right.
And so we revealed history through songs, through the libretto written by Roma Olvera, and then weave it in kind of back in history, back to the playground where this kid is being almost tortured, but taunted by these other kids, the typical name calling and all those things. And our character, Modesty, is trying to find the strength to really protect this kid and make sure he doesn't suffer through this. It's a simple story that has allowed us to channel Harriet Tubman's story, use her strength, use her gifts. And for me, it was just an opportunity to work in a different form. Not typically I work big band or small group, and to be able to create music using this form called opera, which for a lot of people is like, what is opera, right?
Yeah.
And it was like that for me for a long time too. But I think that when you think about it, when you break it down, opera's theater, it's movement, dance, it's costume. There is a musical form, and often, it's continuous. Often it has what's called reprises, where you come back to a scene and variations and arias and duets. And so just using all of those ideas, and by the way, different instrumentation than, you might use in a big band. So, I have a string quartet, I have woodwinds, I have flute doubled on piccolo, I have clarinet, I have oboe, I have bass clarinet, a vibraphonist, also plays percussion, string bassist, like I told you, violin, viola, violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello. There's 2 courses. There's actually 3 courses. And these are kids that we've been working with from the San Francisco Girls Choir.
Incredible. And when is this? When is this, Marcus?
Yeah, November 13th and 14th at the Bayview Opera House.
And that's located where?
That's in the third street, off of Third Street, right in Bayview here in San Francisco. Not far from Hunters Point. It's I like it because it's in the Black community there at a historic Bayview Opera House that went through renovations. It's been there for a long time. I just recently heard they haven't had an opera there. I got to find exactly when, but I heard it's been a very long time. Nothing in the modern time. Wow. So that's kind of special to be able to stage an opera there. It's right off of Third Street, right in the Bayview here. And what I like about it is there's a lot of things, because I'm working with Opera Parallel, which is a company that I got a chance to work with 5 years ago when I did Terrence Blanchard's opera, Champion. So that was at SF Jazz, Champion. It was about a boxer, gay boxer, and all, very interesting story. Yeah. But it was a great experience. I got to know the conductor really well, Nicole Palimon. And she engaged me. It's like, hey, have you ever wrote an opera? Would you be interested? Because they were looking to work with new stories, and also stories from different communities. And they knew I had been kind of working on Harriet Tubman in many different ways musically. So they gave me this invitation. 4 years ago, we did our first sort of run of it, but it was only a piano score that I wrote. I did have some principals, and we did not work with a professional chorus. We worked with kids over at Rooftop, which is an elementary school. And that was challenging. It was great to have the kids, but it was challenging because they weren't professional. They didn't have the experience. So you had to deal with those challenges. This time we got one of the most respected organizations in sort of this format, SF Women's Girls Choir. Great, not only singers, great kids, well trained. Nothing against. I was happy we did the Rooftop thing with the kids who had, because it was kids who probably had never experienced opera before, and for me it was my first draft of this. And so it was.
Hold that thought, Marcus, because.
I know I'm talking too much. Sorry.
No, you're doing fine, but I got thoughts. They'll come in and they'll go, and I don't want this one to go. How do you approach writing an opera? How do you even approach it?
Well, I'll tell you from a simple standpoint is, you got all these characters, and to me, character.
But hold on. That's what I'm trying to get to. Does somebody write the story first?
Yes. So we had a story written by her name is Roma Olvera, and she had done another opera before for Opera Parallel, and she actually worked in their education for a while. But she wrote this beautiful story about this, about the schoolyard, experience and these kids and Harriet Tubman.
Gotcha.
So I started with that. And I was like, reading through that, you kind of get a sense of tension and release.
Movement, got it. Now you're speaking my language.
Moods, right? Different characters, time and space. You go back in time, you come to current time.
Gotcha.
So you start assigning melody to character. You start assigning chords to different moods and feelings within it. You start assigning rhythms to time and space. You start with like big blocks like that.
Gotcha.
The first thing I did was compose kind of it was an aria between Harriet Tubman and Modesty. Basically Harriet Tubman kind of inspiring Modesty to really trust herself, be brave, know that she's always near and can help her, that sort of thing. And so that was the sort of entry route into the opera.
I'm looking up aria. Go ahead.
And also to see if it was something that I could continue and build upon. And so you might go, well, how is it different than, say, so-called blues and swing, right? Well, in this form, you do have to write everything. You have to, in so-called jazz composition,
All right.
there's a lot of implied things like the feeling of swing or articulations, how hard you play a note or how soft you might play, dynamic. A lot of that stuff is implied because the language is, there's a certain thing about the language. Swing is sort of the center part of the language. I'm talking about blues and swing.
Okay.
And even it's even written a little bit different. Well, when you're dealing with this form, opera or classical music, European classical music in general, you have to articulate all those things. You got to tell them how loud to play, how soft to play, how hard to emphasize a note, how short to play. I mean, you got to, almost every note. There's no like improvise here.
Got it. Legato or staccato.
Exactly. Okay. So, I mean, let me try something here. I might be able to kind of show you
please
an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I had to look up aria.
Aria, aria is yeah. You know what aria is? Aria just means slow jam. That's really what it just means, slow jam.
I love it, brother.
In classical European parlay, if you will.
Okay.
So
I like how you said start with the big blocks.
And we start with big blocks.
Yeah.
And then those lead to little blocks because you got to be able to get from one block to the other block. You use the text as a guide. And then the rest of it is experimenting. And at least for me, one thing leads to another. And sometimes you don't know that until you get into the music. I spend a lot of time. And it's not like I'm at the piano, trying to crunch out notes. As you'll never finish it that way,
Okay.
It's really about sort of organizing all these in a musical way so that you can refer back. If you want to use a variation of a passage. Okay. Let me show you something right here. Even if you don't, you know what? Can you make me a co-host?
Let me see here. I'll do my best.
If you click on those three dots, the right hand corner, like move your cursor up to the right hand corner of my photo, of my video.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
If you click on that, it should
make host.
Yeah.
Man, you all right. Man, you better than all right.
Well,
you're teaching me a whole lot today.
Well, I've been doing this Zoom stuff for 2 years now, man.
Wow.
Teaching Healdsburg Jazz. But if you see this right here?
Yes.
So this is the score of the whole piece. And you have flute, oboe, clarinet, bass clarinet, clave, triangle, vibraphone, Modesty, Harriet, Montgomery / Janner, Say Nothing chorus, Bully chorus 1, Bully chorus 2,
incredible,
violins, viola, violoncello, cello, and bass. And so this is the prologue. This is how the whole thing starts. But I'm just going to get down to where.
Man, this is great, Marcus. I can't read a note of it, but this is great.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you don't have to read the note. You can kind of get the energy of what's happening. If you even look at this vibraphone, you see.
I know those are 16 notes.
Yeah, those are 60 notes, and there's something repeating, arpeggiating. That means it's probably creating a chord here.
And then there's pianissimo, and
there's a dynamic marking.
Okay, yeah.
So that means it's growing. So it means maybe something's becoming more present.
Got you.
And then you have
if there's two sharps in it no, that depends on whatever.
Where you say, oh, well, this is the key. So every instrument,
key signature. Okay.
Each instrument has well, I don't want to get you too much into.
I got you. Yeah. Because it's been a
But
while.
like the oboe is
Mhm.
different than the clarinet, the keys. So you got to consider even
Okay.
their keys.
Yeah.
It's just like, where they're, sort of the voice range of that instrument. This is the lowest, this is the highest. And then you can see that, you look at this, you go, wow, there's a lot of notes going up, some going down. So there's some sort of conversation
Gotcha.
that's happening, and
Fantastic.
but then here's where the voice comes in. Brave, strong child, don't fear, know that love is always near. And you can see how the instrumentation sort of works with the text. You don't want to have a bunch of stuff when they're singing.
Yeah.
You do want to have some chords. You see here in the cello and the bass, there's rhythm and there's chords and the strings. There's a lot of movement. You see this, this is like short, quick, fast movement that abruptly ends. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is, let me see, the score goes all the way, it's 196 pages. There's 1,476 measures.
Wow. And how long have you been working on this, brother?
Well, I started in 2017 and I created just a piano score.
Wow.
And from the piano, and then we did reading 2018 at the AAACC, and it went pretty good. But I told you I didn't really have the course to really realize everything. And I didn't have the chamber orchestra then yet. And so for the last, and then they reached out back to me, and it must have been 2019. They're like, okay, we're ready to, no, was it 2019? No, it was 2020.
And what's a AAACC?
The African American Cultural Center.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where we had the first reading, and it was a short production. But they're like, okay, now we're ready to have the orchestra involved. And so about a year ago, I started orchestrating it, and we did a workshop last May, and with the orchestra and the singers, and then we set it to be premiered and do the actual production, which is going to be next week.
Okay. And do you get grants to do this? How do you?
Well, yeah, Opera Parallel is a pretty respected opera company. They do a lot of different things. So they've been the producer of this and fundraiser for this.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Is there anything else that I can do to help? Help?
Well, the beautiful thing about it is we've made this completely accessible for our community. I think it's a pay what you can. I think if you're younger than,
and we don't have to mention prices, okay, but kind of pay what type of thing.
I think it's a pay what you can. I think it's also like if you're a certain age, you get in free.
That's why I think I read that too, under 20.
Yeah, so there's really no excuse for anyone other than they don't like opera, because it's not a jazz opera.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Which is interesting, because when they were asking me about singers, they let me kind of have a little bit of say in that, and I'm like, I didn't know if Tiffany could sing in this form. She can do a lot of things. She's one of the most gifted singers I know. She can read music really well, and I just felt like, you know what, we put our minds together, we can do anything,
right?
Any form. Someone else did it, we can do it too. You just got to work hard. And I've suggested her, because I did think I would try to have a little bit of improvisation, but once I got into it, it just wasn't lending itself. It wasn't going there where you might have a solo or a scat chorus or something.
Got it.
So, but I still wanted Tiffany, because I thought that I still wanted an authentic voice that could still capture my foundation, which is the blues.
Okay.
And Tiffany came in and she was amazing from day one. From day
That's
one,
awesome.
she could, she learned the material. She was able to blend well, which was usually the challenge. Are you gonna be able to blend with these other voices that don't sing blues and swing, but they're singing in a different sort of tonal technique in classical music? She captured all of that.
That's awesome.
And she's a real powerful component in this. I can't wait for you to hear her, because she kills it. She kills it. And again, it's not a jazz opera. It's like very much in the form of this sort of European classical form. So that I'm very proud, because we've been doing a lot of work together now for a decade.
Yeah.
We've done, this is the first time we've done anything close to this,
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I'm most proud of. The fact that it's at the Bayview Opera House. I just want my people to come out. White people, they go and see opera. I want Black people to come out and see it, and be able to hear about their stories in this form, in this venue, at this moment. And so that, to me, is really important, that my community at least has the opportunity, because it's not like a 2-month run here. We're talking about a weekend, and then we're going to see what's possible after that.
That's awesome. And give us the dates again.
No, so I know there is a open rehearsal on the 12th, but the production technically is the 13th and the 14th. Let me see. I might have something here to share with you.
And you know what, brother? I bet this is what it is too. They have I saw an online event to where people can see sneak rehearsals.
Yeah, and they've also created this thing called Tools of the Trade, where there's a collective of people who are learning how opera is created. And they have been they met with the director, who's Peter Callender. Peter Callender is a very successful actor, director here in the Bay Area. He's a dear friend of mine. I've done a lot of work. I did some Shakespeare with him. He's amazing. He runs the African American Shakespeare Company. We have a young director, assistant conductor. We have our maestra, Nicole Payamont. It's a really beautiful team of different people. But here's something that I'm going to put this in the chat room for you, so you can have that. Look at, there's Tip right there.
Yeah. Very
and let me see. Yeah, November 13th, 14th. This doesn't have a lot of information on it, but like what time, right? I better find. I know I have one that has all of that. I'm gonna send you some stuff, Eric.
Okay.
Don't worry. I'll send you a bunch of stuff. And
1 o'clock, brother. 1 o'clock.
What about
it? 1 o'clock.
Which one?
The Harriet Tubman.
Oh, you mean next week? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yes.
No, I think there's maybe two shows on Saturday.
Okay.
I think there's a total of 3 actual performances.
Okay, I see one. So the first one must be at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then 1 o'clock on Sunday.
1 o'clock on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, brother.
So yeah, my mom. I want to kind of conclude with this. My mom first told me about Harriet Tubman when I was like 9 years old. I wasn't into music like that then. I was into sports.
Yeah.
But I
definitely know you like baseball.
I like all sports, but I love baseball. Yeah, but I was Harriet Tubman has been this curious figure in my spirit for all these years. Yeah. And now for the past 15 years, I've been writing all this different type of music for her and about history and so it's almost like this lifetime journey, just trying to find out different ways to express Harriet Tubman through music. Yeah.
Definitely, brother. And you kind of answered that, because I've seen a few works of you from you that reference Harriet Tubman. So yeah. brother, you're doing nice things, and I really appreciate what you're doing for our community, for the arts, and
Oh.
for exposing people to opera, and especially the youngins.